welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. We are in the kitchen again. We will be going outside to schmooze on the baby goat, so don't you worry, but I do have some inside work to do today because I'm preparing for our processing day this weekend. So every fall we process a handful of goats before the rifle season for deer kicks in our area, and we have a few different refrigerators here on the homestead. We've got the one that's inside, and this one is just kind of a regular fridge. The one on my front porch is my dairy fridge, and then there's one in one of our sheds that is really for a meat fridge, but during the height of dairy season I kind of pack it full of milk, and it did have a lot of milk in it today, so I need to process some milk today. And some of the milk is actually quite old. So earlier in the year I discovered that if I gave my goats a cobalt block, not only did it improve the flavor of their milk, but it actually makes the milk last weeks, well over a month. We have consumed milk that tasted like it was the day that it was milk, tasted super fresh, that was 5 weeks old, which is kind of crazy. It's a good thing, but it's also kind of a bad thing because I know that I can go a little bit longer before I process milk, so it means that I sort of amass a large quantity of milk. So today I would like to cream separate so that I can make butter, and I might even get a Colby cheese going. We're just gonna have to see how the day unfolds. All right, so this is the milk that was in our meat fridge, and I have some of it marked for the 7th, and you might think October 7th, okay, so that was 2-ish weeks ago. No, this is August 7th's milk, and a lot of times goat's milk doesn't separate on its own. It's naturally homogenized. It's probably going to be a little bit hard to see here because I have carried this across the yard, but if you let goat's milk sit long enough, the cream does rise to the top, although it's my opinion that it's not super thorough. It's not like a complete separation like you would get with a cow. So I am going to still be using my cream separator today, but I'm very curious to taste this milk. This will have been the oldest milk that I've tasted. Now, raw milk doesn't necessarily go bad. It can go bad, but if it's milked cleanly, stored cleanly, then it's not gonna go bad. The worst it's gonna do is start to sour and it turns into clabber. I've got something to show you, hang on. Last year in the summer sometime, when it came time for me to clean out one of the refrigerators, what I did with a lot of the milk is just set it out at room temp and let it clabber. You can strain this and turn it into cottage cheese, or you can do anything really with it that you would do with cream cheese. It's just got a little bit more of an acidic bite than cream cheese does. This jar has been sitting on our dining room table for well over a year, and it's not bad. This milk is not bad. It's not really milk anymore. It has turned to clabber, but everything in here is so acidic that really nothing bad can grow. And I'm excited to taste test this, but I'm not gonna be doing that on today's video. It's just gonna sit a little bit longer. It does smell like it's starting to sour, which doesn't surprise me. It is very old. Yeah, it's clabbering, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to either making cheese or making butter out of the milk. A lot of people will actually use clabbered milk to culture their cheeses, and so someday I will master that, but that's not what I'm going to be doing today. Actually, when I cream separate milk that is starting to go a little bit sour, I get like a soured cream out of it, which makes sense. And in my opinion, cultured cream like that makes the best butter. I probably have 8 glass gallon jars, and I told myself that I wasn't going to get any more so that it would force me to process the milk when I ran out of big jars. Turns out I'll just grab whatever I can to put milk in if I'm too busy to process milk. So this is an 8-gallon pot, and we've almost gotten to the tippy top. So there's probably about 7.5 gallons of milk in here right now, and this is my cream separator. I store most of it inside the bowl, and I put this pillowcase over top. It helps keep everything clean. This here is a Slavic Beauty cream separator, and I bought it through Caprine Supply, which is an online goat supply kind of goat meds distributor. I had to run outside for a bucket, but this is my setup. So the cream separator needs the milk to be at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, just about the same temperature that it would have come out of the goat as, in order to cream separate effectively. That's why I need the pot on the stove in order to cream separate. But as it does its thing, the skim milk is going to come out here. We're going to feed this to the animals, and then the cream is going to go in here. I'm going to need at least 3 jars probably. Okay, so my milk is up to temp, and as you can probably see, not all of this milk is going to fit in the hopper up here all at once. I think this might fit 2 gallons, but as the milk processes through, I'll be able to add more. And I need to be paying attention to all the things. I need to make sure that my cream doesn't overflow, and I need to make sure that the skim doesn't overflow. This is a 7-gallon bucket, so I highly doubt it's gonna overflow. The skim does kind of froth up as it goes in there, so I may have to kind of stop things and adjust as we go, but it is time. The cream separator does need to kind of warm up, so I'm going to turn it on. It sounds kind of like an airplane taking off. In order to get the milk to flow, I need to turn this little stopper up here. It's going to open up a valve and the process will start. Can you hear the difference? That's the milk entering the machine. The skim always comes out first, and then there's the cream. Okay, thank you. Look at that. You know it was a good day in the kitchen when you have to pull out the whole oven in order to clean behind it. Say it with me now. Make a mess or it doesn't count. I make so many messes every day that it doesn't really even faze me anymore. I learned to expect it. So that little side quest revealed a chore that was very overdue, so I guess it was a good thing. We got 2 quarts plus this little bit out of that milk, which is okay. It's not the best cream separating day that I've ever had. I don't have my highest butter fat capacity goats in milk right now, so I'll take what I can get. I am very happy with it. I'm gonna mark it as cream. And then I actually like to make my butter out of very chilled cream. For some reason it never breaks into butter when I use warm or room temperature cream, so I'm gonna stick this stuff in the fridge. And when that spill happened, I was actually raiding my fridge to figure out what cultures I had, because it's been a long time since I attempted a yogurt culture. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with skim milk very frequently during the busy season. I just choose to feed it back to my farm, whether by putting it in the compost or feeding it back to the animals. Very, very valid use for skim milk. You can turn it into really any number of things. We just tend to prefer the full fat versions of those things to include yogurt, but it's been a little while and I have some different cultures, so I think we're gonna try it again. But also, one of the things that you can make with skim milk that you genuinely cannot with full fat milk is a Parmesan style cheese. So I say Parmesan style because technically Parmesan cheese comes from sheep's milk from a very specific area of Italy, and I've made my own version here, and it's time to taste it. It needs at least 7 to 12 months to age, and I made this March 4th of this year, so we're definitely over that 7-month time, and we could let it go a little bit longer, but I think we should taste this on camera before we get the yogurt going. Smells kind of farty, as cheese sometimes does. So this looks somewhat correct. It is a little bit kind of slimy feeling. Each sniff smells actually a lot better than the last. Oof. Super hard, as skim milk cheeses are. The creaminess part of cheese really comes from the fat that's in it. Oof. Goodness, I can't even bite it. That's what it looks like on the inside. Wow, that's really good. Like really, really good. Holy moly, that's amazing. Just like they do at Olive Garden, right? It's definitely chewier than the Parmesan cheese, the shredded Parmesan cheese that I've purchased at the store or gotten at restaurants. But again, I just grated that from the outside here. I know that when you buy like big wheels of Parmesan, usually the rind is a lot harder, and these are the kinds of things that you melt into soups. And so I'm gonna call this a success. I think I'll be doing more of this coming spring, possibly over the winter. It's really good right now, and the flavor is gonna develop as it sits. So I'm gonna wrap this back up and stick it back in the cheese cave. Now, fair warning, I have not yet gotten this process to work in the way that I like, but I feel like a good goat's milk yogurt should not be super hard, and I will figure it out. You'll find a lot of recipes out there for yogurt where the end product is pretty loose. It's like a drinkable style yogurt, and I already make a drinkable type yogurt. It's called kefir. It's actually not a yogurt technically, but it's a really great probiotic food, and I will be waking up my kefir grains today, and so I'll show you those. But if I'm going to have a yogurt, I really like it to be thick, and I like it to be thick without me having to do a whole bunch of things like straining. I have made yogurts before with a couple gallons of milk, and in order to get it to a thickness that I like, that like stayed on the spoon instead of just running off, I had to strain a lot of whey off, and I only got like a quart of yogurt out of it, and to me that's not worth it. So I have been trying and failing, honestly, for the last year to really find a good balance of culture and a little bit of rennet, which is what we make our cheeses with, to help set things so that we can get a good volume in a creamy yogurt. Now, I've tried all kinds of different cultures and haven't been able to get this to work. I've been speaking with one of our members, Genesis, and Genesis has been making her own yogurt for several years out of cow's milk, and she's been trying to make the exact same thing with goat's milk, and it's just not performing the same way as cow's milk. But I think that we're going to be able to figure it out with trial and error, and this is definitely one of those trials that could end up in error. So be forewarned. Now, I have this culture here. It's an MM100. This is one that you can make chev cheese with, and I have a little book back here. I think I got this on Thrift Books, Making Homemade Cheeses and Butter, right? It's really old and really cute, and the yogurt section doesn't give any measurements. It just says the milk is warmed to 100 to 110 degrees, your culture is added, and you let it sit 5 to 6 hours. And if you want it to be a tartar flavor, you could sit it for 10 to 12 hours. So this will be sitting probably overnight, so a little bit longer. This is already going to be a little bit tart because we're starting with some of that milk that had started to kind of clabber. I am going to add a whole teaspoon of culture, which is kind of a lot, to about 6 cups of milk. The MM100 culture that I used is fine to use with room temperature milk. Some cultures, like thermophilic cultures, the milk needs to be warmer, like I believe 115 degrees, and some mesophilic cultures need you to heat the milk to about 100, 102. But this one does fine at a lower temp. And I'm going to be diluting the rennet in water because I would like to use less than a drop of rennet, because I really want to create just a just enough thickness for it to be like a creamy yogurt, but not so thick that it winds up being kind of like a cheese curd. I've made some squeaky yogurts in the past and we'd like to avoid that. So 1 drop of rennet into the water. Stir this up, and I will add a tablespoon. I want to add 2 tablespoons, but I hope I don't regret that. So we have diluted down that 1 drop of rennet quite a lot. Okay, so let's go incubate this. All right, so we're in our Homestead overflow shed, and I have this cute little yogurt maker that I bought several years ago, and I've had it in storage. I used it once, and it hasn't really been my most favorite thing, partially because I haven't gotten yogurt to work super well with raw goat's milk, but also these containers are kind of comically small for my family. It's more of like a snack size, but I am going to use this today as we kind of test out this process. So I did keep the little pamphlet here, and it says that it's going to take at least 10 hours to create yogurt with skimmed milk. So it's a good thing that I elected to let this go overnight. There, it can go up to 15 hours, so I just set it for that. Here we have what looks like a science experiment, but this is my kefir culture that has been sitting in my refrigerator for I don't even know how long. I just fed it and put it in the fridge, and it has separated some, but this will be just fine. Oh, it smells beautiful. I want to show you what's kind of forming on the top of this. It might scare you if you're not used to seeing something like that, but can you see? Looks like kind of ripples in there. This is fine. I believe some people call this the flowers of kefir. I'm not sure if it's a type of yeast or what, but it does not smell bad to me. I'm just going to stir this in. Oh, it actually smells really delicious. My mouth is watering. Now, because this has been sitting so long, this is going to have a little bit of a snottier texture than it normally does. It's good and thick, but it's normally not like stringy like that. It's just because the cultures have been sitting a long time, and that's what they've created. It's very, very good still. That was a bunch of kefir grains that I had hanging out in the fridge, and so that I can give my kefir the best chance of waking up well, I am going to leave all of these grains in here, top it off with milk, and then see how they are in, I don't know, maybe even by this evening things would have cultured in here, because that's a lot of grains. So this kefir, having sat in the refrigerator for I don't know how long, is quite tart. It is very good, but I'm going to be adding a little bit of this peach syrup from some peaches that I had put in the freezer from our bonfire peach trees a little earlier in the year, probably a couple of months ago. We put the peaches in some ice cream, and this syrup is great to add to things like this to flavor it and also sweeten it. The kefir's so thick that it's hard to suck up through that straw. There we go. Bust out the boba straw. It's very good. Little boys are so cute. They've had these little beaver collars on for a couple of days. Really, it's probably about 5 days at this point, and they've been running around. I haven't seen them go out into the big fields with the herd. It doesn't mean that they haven't, but all I know is that they have been making it back into the barn in the evening, which I'm super grateful for. I did take Gollum's beaver collar off because he's definitely keeping up with the herd. He's a big boy now. Are you ready to be milked? We are missing some of the goats. We do not have all of them. It's looking a lot more brown out here since our frost, which is why I've started to feed hay, but most of the herd seems to be finding some things out here. Yeah, they're on the other side of the pond. Goaty goat! You guys finding some good forage out there? Come on, Foxy. Nice, sweet girl. You ready for grain? Hello. Good afternoon, Winnie. They're ready for the routine. These boys came to see what's going on. You'll get your grain too. Ma'am, she's only a jerk when the camera comes out. I swear. Elsa, ma'am. Goodness. What?
Will Mr. Jimmy tell him his cows are out?
I don't have my phone on me, but could you go get it off of, I think it's at the computer. Thank you. It's never a dull moment. The neighbor's cows are out. So our Stormy here, I have not taken her babies off of her, but I have been milking her every day. She has been doing really well, just a little bit kicky. I'm not getting very much. This is Stormy's first time having babies, and so her first time being in milk, her first time being milked, and I really didn't do a lot of work with her as far as milk steering training. So I would say, considering that, she's been doing very well. Now in a couple of weeks, her babies are 1 week old now. You can really kid share and separate them at night at about 2 weeks. I probably won't do it that early, but I could start kid sharing with them in a couple weeks, letting her udder fill up overnight and then milking her in the morning. I kind of know myself, and I don't like to get up super early and really get out and moving around super early, so I'll probably just leave them on her until they're ready to fully wean, and then we'll be milking her full time then, like getting her full capacity. Until then, though, we get just the tiniest little bit, and she gets trained, which is huge. So this is as much milk as we're getting right now. It's not a ton. 3 of the does that I'm milking, they were at their peak lactation months ago. They kidded a lot earlier in the year. 2 of them are rebred, and I noticed as soon as their pregnancy settled that their milk went down and stayed down. I'm here for it. That is absolutely fine. And then of course we have Margie and Stormy, who both recently kidded and still have babies on them. Good morning. So yesterday after we milked the goats, I attempted to make butter out of the cream that was semi-chilled but it hadn't chilled overnight, and I thought that it didn't make butter, and I had never seen it before where it never broke into butter. You know, I've gotten emails that have asked me, Heather, why is my cream not turning into butter? And I said, I don't know. It's always just worked for me. Looks like until today it's turned a different color, the cream has. So what I did was I actually refrigerated that cream, and it looks like it did separate into butter, and I somehow just didn't notice it. And we have butter on top here and then buttermilk down here. So I need to strain this out at some point today, but just so you know, if you feel like you've been mixing and mixing your cream for forever and nothing happens, if you stick it back in the fridge, it just may show you that there really is butter in there. But after that, I went ahead and made a cheese. The pot was on the stove with another 7.5 gallons of milk. And I got this Colby done, and it's all finished now. And I'm noticing that this particular cheese is bigger than all of the cheeses that I have made all year. And the only difference, which kind of boggles my mind, the only difference is Margie's milk. My Chamois that I was milking when the neighbor's cows got out, which they are, I mean, they've been doing cattle their whole lives over there, and so it was just the two of them, put bunches of cows away, just like lickety split, so that situation resolved itself just fine. But Margie, in the past, at least when I've made like farmer's cheeses before, it seems like she gives a lot of volume but doesn't offer just a ton as far as like the milk proteins and things go in order to make a lot of cheese. But this is a big wheel of cheese. Look how tall that is. Oh, it's hurting me to hold it up. I'm gonna show you next to the last cheese I made so you can see the difference. So this one is cut in half, but this is more what I'm used to seeing. And this one I made in September before Margie kidded. Look, the only difference is Margie's been added to the milk. Which that's the only explanation I have. Now, in our Margie's defense, I think the last time that she was in milk, I still wasn't feeding the best quality feed. I was just feeding my goats a commodity mix, and it really wasn't tailored for them. And I don't believe I was feeding alfalfa pellets then either. And I am feeding, it's called a Milk Maker goat pellet from Combotch with an alfalfa pellet. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts goat pellet, 1 part alfalfa. And so maybe for Margie, that is the big difference. So I think it goes to show that genetics can only carry you so far. Nutrition really needs to be optimal to get the most out of them. Got my plate. Got this little cheese mat here. I'm gonna place giant cheese on the cheese mat. This does need to kind of air cure for a couple days. I'll be flipping this every 12 hours just so the outside rind can kind of set up, and then this will go in the cheese fridge for 2 months, and then we can partake, and we will be very happy about this in just a couple of months. Smells lovely already though. Sinks way down. There we go. This will protect it from bugs and things while it cures. And I do have an update for you on our yogurt. You can probably kind of tell what's going on based on the color. Now, I will say that this yogurt would have had a better chance at being successful had I used fresh milk. So if you've made cheese in the past, even like the farmer's cheese, maybe you haven't made cheese and you understand that if you put an acid inside milk, you're going to get the curds and whey separating. When the milk is old, like the milk that I used, it has formed a lot of its own acids. That's why we detect a sour in the flavor. And a lot of times you just have to heat up the milk a little bit and that milk will separate all on its own. And so I think that's what happened here. We made cheese. Again, we've got this little pat of cheese at the bottom of these cups, which we can eat. It didn't become yogurt, but that's okay. I use the ideal freshness of milk with this, and we'll experiment some more. The reason that I'm so persistent about this is I got it to work one time. I got it to work exactly how I wanted one time and never again. And I don't know the difference. I've tried to replicate exactly what I did, and so far, no good. But so story time. Remember how we were looking at the baby goats yesterday, and I remarked how they hadn't gone down to the pond with the herd yet. They hadn't really needed to use their beeper collars in order to find them. Well, last night I was busy inside with the butter and with the cheese and with dinner and things, and sundown happened, and I didn't think to look at my camera to check for the baby goats. Well, Leva had started a fire in the burn barrel. We were gonna have some s'mores. I came out to feed the cats and it was really dark. I mean, this was 8 o'clock at night, I'm gonna guess, and I heard little baby goat screams from way over there. Not at the barn, way over there. And Stormy was just outside the barn screaming for them. And so I knew that the 2 little babies were out at the pond in the dark. So I grabbed my spotlight and I came down here to the barn to get the little remote for their collars. And the second I touched the barn, coyotes that were, I mean, right there, started howling and yipping. And I was like, oh no, we have drawn them in. So my husband came out with me with his protection, if you will, and we went down to the pond, and both baby goats, they're very people friendly or whatever, they're very well handled, and so they came right up to us, and Stormy followed us out there, bless her, and we all walked the babies home. Now I stayed in the barn for a little while. We stayed outside at the burn pit for a little while, heard the coyotes a couple more times, but once the baby goats stopped screaming, they decided they could move on. But right now, nobody's home in the barn, so that means the babies are more than likely out with the herd again. We have to stop and say hi to Chloe, though. We can't not say hi to Chloe. Good morning, Chloe. Yeah. I'll break a pumpkin for you in a second. The goats do have some hay. Now this isn't the most amazing hay that we have. It's kind of stemmy and it's not their favorite thing, but it's there for them if they need it. But they're choosing to come out to the pond, which is exactly what I want. All right, where's Stormy? She's over there. There's some goats here. There's some goats there. Good morning. Are your babies keeping up? Sure looks like it. What happened last night, you guys? Hi. Oh, you're so cute. Huh? I'm so glad that I heard you and that we actually did s'mores. If we hadn't have done s'mores, probably I would have heard the coyotes from inside the house, but I don't know if it would have dawned on me that maybe the baby goats were at the pond. So I know I didn't show in this video a comprehensive how-to on exactly how to make butter, on exactly how to make different types of cheeses. I do have an entire playlist of all of the things that we've made with our goat's milk. I'm gonna be doing a couple more things out of that playlist this week, like cajeta, which is like a caramel with goat's milk, and probably some farmer's cheeses, some chev and things, because I need to be keeping our meat fridge clear for meat processing this weekend. So I'm gonna put that playlist up here for you if you would like to see the step-by-step how-to on all those processes to include kefir. It was a very dairy day yesterday. It was a good one. I'll see you guys again soon.